if one were to line up all the shades of blue, but one was missing, would your brain be able to fill it in? So this is what he couldn't answer this question. He was normally a rationalist, and he would say no, but he wasn't totally sure, and he thought your brain, there's still something in it that you maybe could. And in life, I feel like in life there's always a missing shade of blue, because we can't possibly live every experience. There's always some unknown. So, in other words, the question is, does all knowledge have to come from experience, or can the mind generate ideas beyond direct experience? I'll let you talk and then I'll say a bit more.
Well, I think it's I want to say wrong, but I think that's extreme. But I think it's assumptuous to think that we interact with reality as it is, because it's obvious that we don't. All of our experience is tainted by our cognitive biases and our belief systems about how reality works. That is often based on our childhood or our upbringing or previous experience. And so a lot of our experience is filled in by our mind before we even consciously experience it. And so it's difficult to then actually gain knowledge about what's really going on and what's really happening in the world, because we're so tainted by the sort of predictions that our mind makes about how things go. And those predictions are useful, like, God, they're how our ancestors survived and how we've got to this point as a species, by predicting, right, what's going to happen next in reality. And pretty much all of the time we are correct. But it blinds us also sometimes, and that's where we don't see maybe that missing shade of blue. We don't see some aspect of reality that's there because we are blinded by our perceptive mechanisms, so to speak.
A real life example, say when you're playing basketball, you need to score a buzzer beater, one of your players is fouled out. Should you run the play based on how you've run it before, or should you admit that the guy isn't here, so you've got to generate new ideas?
It's like there's always, you can plan for some things in life, but there's always going to be that missing shade of blue that arises independent of the plan and completely out of the things that you thought about that could happen. It's like that. It kind of comes back to that, the map not being the territory idea that I talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's like you create a map of the world that you exist within, and because it's so accurate and it's so good and your mind is so effective at doing that, the majority of the time it doesn't feel like you're following a map. It feels like you're in the territory. It feels like you're in the real world. But then when something goes wrong, your expectations aren't met, or there's a mistake in your map, and suddenly your world falls apart, you fall into chaos, and suddenly you're in the big, wide, scary territory that's undiscovered and unknown. When that happens, that's when you realize you're in a map, okay? And so from that example, you have a set play of how you're going to run the last 3 seconds of a shot clock, and you have this three-point shooter who teams are going to jump so you can run some sort of play. But yeah, if he's fouled out, then you're like, okay, well, now our map's not useful anymore. And now we're in the territory. Now we're in the unknown. There's always unexpected things about our lives that come along. And that doesn't mean don't create a map, but it means recognize that you're following a map. Because, when your map falls apart, that's when you experience big emotional shifts and emotional pain a lot of the time.
You can use pattern recognition, creativity, intuition from the past to make this decision, to form an illusion that makes this decision. But is that just a mix of shades of blue rather than the missing shade of blue itself? And I think that's the case. I don't think there's anything like experience for this missing shade of blue. It's like in a business context, you have to make a successful fizzy drink, and you look what's on the shelf, and you have to fill this missing gap in the mildew aisle of what drink can go here. And so you think to yourself, well, add a little bit of Coca-Cola and make it a little bit spicy and make a hot Coca-Cola version of drink and brand it like that. That'll be a bit more safe. But you can make it with a lot of margins, with a lot of economies of scale. You make it cheap enough, people will buy it, relatively safe. But and then it doesn't work, and something else works. That's a can of water with a skull as a logo, and it's called Liquid Death. Without the direct experience, I don't think that you can. I don't think your mind can predict it, because it would just get it wrong.
Yeah, we make predictions all the time. I remember Alan Watts talking about people who say they don't have faith are lying to themselves, because we all use faith every single day. We put one foot in front of the other and have faith that the floor beneath our feet isn't going to fall through to the center of the earth. Or whenever we engage in any sort of social interaction or relationship, we have faith that that other person isn't going to betray us. Or when we do something, we have faith that doing that thing is more worth it than not doing it. And so, yeah, we're always creating sort of predictions of what's right to do in reality and how reality might work and what might go successfully. And there are always red herrings. There are always things that we didn't think of that go wrong. There is always a missing shade of blue that our mind doesn't consider. And I guess that shows the sort of the pitfalls in creating a plan or trying to structure or plan your life too deeply, because who knows what could come along.